So this is our first Streamer 101 class. Welcome in, everybody. This is our first session. So for anybody watching later on, hi, my name is Noctwolf TV. I am a social media director for the company Uncanny GG, and we're doing Streamer 101 classes every week, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, in our Discord to help people get more accustomed with streamer software, to get accustomed to streaming in general, and to learn kind of how to find their not only their content identity in what they're doing and how they're doing it, but also to try and find some kind of a little bit of relative purpose in what they're doing so that they have goals moving forward and how to do it well using the software at hand. Now, this class today is going to be essentially on OBS basics. There are different platforms that you can use to stream on. You can use XSplit, you can use Streamlabs OBS, you can use OBS Studio. We're going to be going over OBS Studio today. The original two, back when streaming was just becoming a thing even, circa, 2012, 2013, 2014. The only two real competitors in the market as far as streaming software were XSplit and OBS Studio, or in OBS, Open Broadcast Software. XSplit has always had a subscription fee. It's a little bit pricier. It's a little bit more. It's a little rich for my taste, if that makes sense. OBS stands for Open Broadcast Software. It was a free project created by people who wanted to be able to stream on the internet. And it's always been free. It's always been open source. All of the code is publicly available. Anybody can go in at any time and look and see how it works and design their own plugins and their own scripts and their own codes for it. It's a completely community-driven free product that purely exists because the internet wanted it to exist. And over the years, it's gotten a lot of upgrades. It's gotten a lot of features. A lot of people have taken their own riff and spin on the OBS platform. But OBS, Open Broadcast Software, is the OG. It is the GOAT. It is the original, right? The OBS Studio that we're using now is kind of the revamped version of the classic OBS. OBS wound up going through a little bit of a facelift in 2017. Now it is OBS Studio. So it has a couple new features. It's a little bit prettier. It's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. It's not as Windows Vista-y. So now we're working in OBS Studio, right? And you can see here on my screen that we currently have OBS Studio open. If you do not have OBS Studio, you can simply go to Google OBS Studio. You can go to the first link that pops up, and you can download it here. Again, totally free, totally open source, community-driven free software that is, honestly the most used software of any broadcast software on the internet. So, like I said, some people have taken their own riffs and spins on OBS. For example, there is Streamlabs OBS. Streamlabs OBS is exactly the same program as OBS Studio. So, OBS Studio, like I said, has open source code. Anybody can look at the code and see how it works. What Streamlabs did is they took that free code, right, and essentially built a really fancy store around it. And that store is constantly running in the background on your computer. And all of those graphics, all of the widgets, everything is stored and ran locally on your computer. What that does is eat up hard drive. It eats up CPU and GPU usage and takes away from what your computer can do in total. It's good for beginner streamers who don't want to have to piece together things from different websites and don't want to have like a really nitty-gritty hands-on control over everything in their stream. If they want to have a lot of things just kind of already built for them, it's good. But as you grow and as you scale and as you add more and more sources to your scenes in OBS, it gets a little bloated and out of control and can crash a lot. So as you grow, it's good to get used to using OBS Studio because your computer will handle it a lot better the more you do with it, if that makes sense. So, basics, this is the interface of OBS Studio. Here you have your preview for what your stream is going to look like. And then you have these bottom panels, right? You have different things in your OBS Studio. You have scenes, you have sources, you have audio, and you have controls, okay? So your scenes, you can think of it like your gameplay screen, your just starting screen, your just chatting screen. Those are all different scenes. Your camera, your logo, a chat box, an alert box, those are all sources. They're individual elements inside of a scene, right? And we're going to go over different source types here today too, and go over the different properties of each source type, so you kind of know what you're looking at when you're looking at a source. So you know how to break it down into its pieces, and you aren't just looking at the properties going, what? How do I use this? What is the application of this? Why does this exist? That's what we're going over today. The audio mixer shows off the different audio devices that you have set up for your stream. Right now, all I'm showing is desktop audio and my microphone. And because I haven't gone into the settings right here and set those up yet, you can see the bars are not moving. Your controls, you can have a start streaming, you have start recording, because OBS can both stream to an internet streaming platform, or it can record locally on your computer for, say, YouTube Let's Plays. You can also start a virtual camera and, say, in a Zoom call or in a Google Hangouts call, right? You can actually turn whatever scene you have here, whatever gameplay you have, whatever just chatting screen you have, whatever goofy effects you put up, you can turn that into a webcam and project that out into a Zoom call or into a Google Hangout or anything else. Your settings is where you can click in here and have all of your settings, essentially. It's how you set everything up and how you actually track not only the data that you're sending out, and you allocate data to be sent out, how much data to be sent out, but also the speed and flow of that data, so that you can control the quality of your stream, right? If you look right here, there is a little button right here next to controls. That is scene transitions. Right, you can see that this is kind of a multi-purpose little square here. I've got controls, and then I've got scene transitions. This is where if you have a custom transition that you make yourself or purchase online, you can upload that here, and you can see there are different types of transitions to add as well, and we'll be going over that here shortly. That's the basic overview of what you're looking at right now. That is the GUI, or the graphical user interface of the OBS, of OBS Studio. Right, that's what all of these things are. Now, what do they do? That's going to be the next question. What do they do? So you can see here, this is just named scene. Right, this right here, as I was talking about before, you can have a facecam screen, you can have a just chatting screen, a gameplay screen, all of those different screens that you have that flash up on your stream to make it look like you've got all these different cool visuals and views, right? Those are all your scenes, right? Those are different scenes. Now, this one's just titled scene. We're going to call this facecam, because that's the first thing we're going to do here. We're going to build a facecam scene. So we're going to rename this facecam. You can see I right-clicked it, and you have a lot of options here once you right-click a scene. You can rename it, you can remove it, you can duplicate it if you want to copy a scene and have two of a scene for some reason. There are applications for that, but I'm not going to get into those today. You can screenshot a scene without actually having to open it. You can project the scene into a full screen view for yourself, as well as project it into a separate window. If you want to open up a different scene in a different window, you can do that from there, right? So right now we've got our face cam, and over in sources, because we want to actually have a face cam, we're going to do something like this. Hopefully whatever I just unplugged was not necessary. Okay. So now that I've got that set up, we're going to add a face cam here. You can see here's the sources. We've got our scene, right? But it's just black. There's nothing here that's just blank, right? So we have to actually add our sources to build the scene, right? We want to try to put together a good production, put together a good show. We have to actually build the sources. So we go sources, you go to this little plus right here. Wow, that's a lot of options. There's a lot of different kinds of things you can add to a scene. We have audio input capture, audio output capture, browser, color source, display capture, game capture, image slideshow, media source, scene, text, video capture device, window capture, and group, right? First thing we're going to do, like I said, we're starting with a facecam screen. We're going to add a video capture device. Okay, create new. And then we're going to pick what device we want. Pretty sure that's it. Yep, there we go. That's my third camera there. I've got one camera on the recording. I've got one camera for you guys to see, and I've got another camera for this. So you can see here, we've got our camera here. We've picked it, right? From here, you can also configure your video if you want to change brightness, contrast, saturation, sharpness, if you want to mess with your color balance, essentially. If your lighting's maybe not the best, or if you want to try, if your camera's, you know, maybe not the best webcam and it feels like it's got this weird gray filter over it, you can come in here and you can turn up the contrast a little bit. You can turn up the maybe turn down the brightness, turn up the saturation just a little bit. And you can play with the colors and the shades there to try to make your less good webcam look a little bit more production quality, right? Recording cam is gone. Okay, no, it should. If you guys can't see my camera, that's okay. I can see everything on my end is still running. So then from there, you don't have to always go with whatever the default resolution is on your camera. Let's say you have a 1080p webcam, or let's say you have a 720p webcam, but for some reason the default on the device is to shoot in 480, which with Logitech webcams can oftentimes be an issue. You might have it set to just record in whatever default setting the webcam came with, and it shoots in 480, and then all of a sudden your webcam looks really grainy. To double check that, all you have to do is, instead of resolution FPS type, device default, go to custom, and then select what resolution you want your webcam to output in. You can see immediately, my camera, my C920, automatically by default outputs in 480p. As soon as I changed it to 720p, my webcam size doubled on my preview. So what that's going to do is allow you to have more crisper visuals and more crisper video without necessarily having to go out and buy a really fancy camera. It might just be that maybe your camera's default isn't the resolution that it's advertised at. You can change your FPS. I usually like to keep it at highest, but I also have the settings to be able to do that. You can change your color space. I recommend 709 for your color space. That is essentially HD color. You have the option when you're looking at color space on a camera to have HD color or non-HD color. And 601 is non-HD, 709 is HD. I like HD, so I pick HD color. Color range is, you can either pick partial or full. I use full because my computer can handle it. If you have maybe not as good specs on your computer and you need to balance out some settings to make sure that your performance and that your stream isn't choppy, that's one of those things that you can sacrifice on and not see a whole lot of a detriment in your camera quality. But if you have the specs for it, it's still nice to have. And then we don't capture audio. I don't capture audio for my camera, so I don't mess with that. But you can see here, after I've messed with my camera balance, after I've messed with my camera color, after I've increased the resolution, my camera looks a lot more higher quality than if I had just added in the video capture device. If that makes sense. So now we have that face cam scene. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to right click this. And again, we have a lot more options when we right click things in OBS Studio. You can set colors. This is more for organizational purposes. You can make folders and then you can organize the folders by color. It's like having a science binder, right? You can order things in your sources. You can move them above or below. Other scenes, you can also move them to the top or the bottom of a scene. You can transform them, which is what we're about to do. I can fit my camera to the screen. So now it's a full screen face cam, right? I can right click it and then I can also say flip it horizontally. If, let's say my chat, which is normally right here, right? If my chat's right here and I want to make it look like I'm looking at my gameplay, let's say this is a gameplay screen just for a second, let's play pretend. Let's say my camera's small and I want to make sure that when I'm not looking towards the edge and frame of the stream when I'm reading chat, I want to make it look like I'm looking into the gameplay. It just creates a more seamless experience. It doesn't feel like you're breaking any walls or anything. It feels better when you're looking into the gameplay, right? Or if when you're looking at chat, you're looking at the camera, you can flip your camera around and reorient it so that it matches where you need it to be. All right, the other things you can do is, again, the projecting. You can make this source its own window. You can project it out into its own little mini window here if you want to. And then filters we're going to go into next week. We're not going to get too into filters today. That's a little bit more advanced than I'm going to get into. But so far, does anybody have any questions over video capture devices or any of the basics of the graphical user interface of OBS? I'll take a sec to take questions. And if you have any questions throughout as I'm talking also, feel free to type out in your, feel free to type things out in the chat as well. I'll make sure to be going over and checking that as I go and answering questions as well.
So this doesn't have to do with video capture, but when will this be uploaded to YouTube? Because I think I'm pretty sure I have to go like halfway in. So when will this be uploaded?
No worries. This is going to end up being uploaded more than likely, I would say probably today. It's going to be on both my personal channel and the Uncanny YouTube channel. So I should have that uploaded by the end of the day today, if not tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so that's video capture devices. Again, I want to make sure to touch on the most commonly used scenes first. I'm not just going straight down the list. I want to hit on the things that you guys are actually going to use first and spend more time on those than some of the other less used things, right? So now that we did that, let's add a game, right? Let's say we want to make this a gameplay screen now, right? So if I wanted to, let's say this is my facecam screen, this is my facecam scene. I'm going to add over here in sources a new scene. This is going to be gameplay. Okay. You can see as I move between these, they fade in and out like that. That's that transition that I was talking about over here. You can set how long you want that fade to be. Let's say I want my fade out to be a full second long, right? It's going to take a lot longer to fade back and forth, right? Instead of, say, the 300 millisecond fade that we have right here. You have that level of control over here in your transitions. When you're switching between scenes, you can add, say, a swipe transition. And you can change what direction you want the swipe to go. You can swipe in or out. You can change transitions that way. You can slide, you can fade to a color. You can, this is a Luma wipe, so it's moving from left to right, but also has all kinds of different transitions in it. If you're familiar with, say, Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides, a lot of these transitions are going to look familiar. A lot of those transitions come stock in Windows as files, and OBS pulls those so that you can use those as transitions for your stream, right? And you can set a certain softness level that changes the transparency between two scenes, right? You can also invert it so it's going out from the from the middle. So any one of these you can also invert to make it go like kind of backwards as well. See? So let's go over to our gameplay screen. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add our face cam back on, right? Because we need our face cam on our gameplay. So we're going to go back over to video capture device again. Instead of making a new one, we're going to click add existing video capture device. We're going to click OK, and boom, there we have the exact same video capture device. Now, I want my camera to be looking that way. That doesn't make sense. I want it to be looking that way, right? So I'm going to transform, flip horizontal. I'm going to drag it to the corner and pull it in, right? So there's my gameplay screen. Or there's my face cam for gameplay. But now I need a window to capture my gameplay. So we're going to go plus. You have a couple options here. You have game capture, window capture, and display capture. Some games work well with game capture. Some games work well with window capture. Some games work only with display capture. It's going to take some playing around to figure out your game, which one of these works best for your game. However, in terms of resource use, like which one is best for your computer and which one is going to be the easiest for your computer to run, gameplay capture is the easiest. So if you can run it in gameplay capture, do it. If you can run it, after that is window capture. So window capture second. If it doesn't run in game capture, try in window capture. If it runs in window capture, great. It's not that much worse. Display capture should be a last-ditch resort. Display capture eats up a lot of usage on your computer and should only be used as a last-ditch effort because for some reason you just cannot get your game window to capture in either of the other two source types. So we're going to open up a game capture scene. You can see that it's got lots of options here to choose from. You can capture any full screen application. I don't usually go with that. I like to capture specific windows. From here, you can capture, say, right now I'm using Streamlabs OBS to actually record this, but you can capture your game window here. Whatever game you have open can be captured there, right? You can also set it to either capture your cursor or not capture your cursor. I always recommend checking this, the use anti-cheat compatibility hook. That essentially makes it so that if you play a game with anti-cheat, like Apex Legends, for example, they don't think that you are using a third-party software to cheat. It tells it the game that you're streaming, and it lets it know that you're not cheating by using this add-on, right? So using that is always suggested. Capturing third-party overlays, that's like if you have Steam or if you're using NVIDIA or if you're using Discord and you have the overlays set up over top of your game. If you check this, this game capture will also capture those third-party overlays. I don't necessarily recommend that, only because it kind of disrupts the flow of the game a little bit, and also because you never know what kind of personal information you might have in any of those overlays. So I never really check this, but it is an option if you do want it there. The capture mode slow. I don't ever check this. It's essentially running on a basically makes it run on a latency. So if you want to make sure again that your computer is processing the game maybe a little bit behind what's actually happening, so that your computer's running a little bit smoother, you can check this to lower the load on your computer. I have the specs so that I don't need this, but maybe you don't, and that is an option there for you. Allowing transparency is not really usable in this case a lot of the time for game capture, unless you have you're using this for VTubing, or you're using this to be as like a virtual camera to essentially have like an avatar on screen, and you want to block out the background of your avatar or something. That's something that the allow transparency setting is there for, but it's not really usable by the general audience that is this. So let's see. And then you can limit the frame rate as well. So if you want to cap the frame rate that OBS is capturing, you can, if you're running at like a 120 frame rate in Apex, you can cap it to 60 and your OBS will run a little bit smoother. So those are all options you have in game capture. Outside of that, remove that. Let's check out window capture. So window capture is going to have a couple different settings, right? You can see immediately, like, the game capture would not pick up Streamlabs. It wouldn't open the window, right? Streamlabs OBS is what I'm recording this lesson on right now. And the game capture didn't open it. It wouldn't show it. Not all programs will show in a game capture. This is where a window capture comes into handy, right? You can pick what window you want to, you can pick what window you want to have open, right? You can set your capture method. I just recommend just keep it at automatic. You shouldn't have to mess with that. The other two are kind of legacy settings that you really won't need to mess with. The match priority also, it should work automatically. The default settings here, I wouldn't really mess with. The only thing that this is good for is if you have two windows open of the same type. So if I have two OBS windows open, or if I have two of Apex Legends open, or two of Among Us open, and I want to prioritize one window over the other, that's when you get in here and you can prioritize which window you want it to be capturing. And then you can also, again, capture cursor. Capturing the client area is like capturing your, like, it's not working on Streamlabs because it's built in, but it's like capturing your, like, the X and the minimize buttons, right? And like file and the top bar, basically. So you can see here, different types of programs are capturable by different types of sources. Window capture will capture, say, programs on your computer, not just games. Game capture will usually only capture games, but it runs the games way more efficiently than a window capture will. Display capture, it's kind of your last ditch resort. It's going to capture your whole screen. Everything on your screen is going to show up on your stream, and that is very, very labor intensive for your computer. So unless you have to do this, I wouldn't do it at all. Looks like we've got a question. So if I pull up my browser to show something, they can see it. Is there a way around that if you use a game capture? Use a window, have a separate window capture open. So what you can do, let's say, I'm gonna use this as an example. I'm gonna get rid of this display capture, right? Of course, if you're using a display capture, you can pull up a window in your browser and show something off easy, right? The problem is, like I said, it's just really labor intensive on your computer. So what you'll want to do is, let's say you have your game open. I'm just going to use this as an example, right? Let's pretend this is a game. Right, let's pretend this is a game. Also, I can drag this below my video capture device to have my camera pop up over top. What you're going to do is have a window capture just chilling. Right? What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit this little eyeball right here. That's going to make it not visible, so it's not on all the time. Let me open up a browser. Let me go to YouTube real quick. Right? Let's say I want to show a YouTube video. What I can do is I can actually go over this second window. You look right here, there's this little bar. This little bar lets you on the fly swap what window your window capture is using. You can click that. Hold up. It's not showing up. There it is. Or you can right click and go into properties. You can do it either way. If I click here, you can see here I've got all these different window options. I've just changed it, right? Click show, boom, there you go. It's a little bit more that you have to do, but if you are running into issues with your computer using up too many resources in OBS, this is something you can do. So if you're using a window capture for your game, or if you're using a game capture for your game, you can do things this way to show things off on your computer that otherwise you would have been using a display capture for. The other thing you can do is have a display capture, but have it at the very bottom, right? I'm going to take it at the top. I'm going to drag it all the way down to the bottom. The other thing you can do is, let's say you have a display capture down here. I'm going to turn it off real quick, right? I'm going to turn that eyeball off, so now it's not using up any resources. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my window capture, because, let's see. If you look here, I have this window up. Oh, nuts. Hold on. Okay, so you can see here that window, like, it's only showing my my Streamlabs right here, right? It's only showing the Streamlabs, right? But if I go to display capture, if I uncheck window, check display, and then pull it up, it shows over top of everything. So that's another workaround. Right? So that's kind of how you when you're capturing video and when you're capturing your game. Those are the optimal ways to do that. The rest of the stuff in here is where you're getting creative. That's where you're getting kind of artsy. That's when you're adding the extra stuff on top of your stream. Bare bones basics, camera and gameplay, right? That's what you're going to end up using the most. The next thing I want to go over is an image source. This is pretty simple. We're going to add a new image. This is literally just, I'm going to find an image on my computer, and I'm going to throw it on my stream. And resize it where I want it. I can pick whatever image I want. The properties are pretty simple. Loading and unloading images every time you open a scene can be, again, kind of labor intensive on your computer. So I recommend keeping that unchecked. But If you don't want these things loaded at all times, you can uncheck it, and then if I change scenes, it's going to load it and unload it in between, right? Image source, very, very simple. Image slideshow, we're going to add an image slideshow. A little bit more complex. So this is literally just a slideshow. Always play even when not visible. You can stop play when not visible and then restart. So if every time you go to a scene you want the slideshow to restart, this is what you have. If you want it to pause when you change scenes and then restart when you go back to a scene, you can set that to be here. Or you can set it to be constantly going through your picture slideshow even if you're not on that scene. Totally dependent on what you want. This is literally just a slideshow of pictures, right? You can do different slide modes. You can have different transitions that you want to happen in between the pictures. But let's go to where we get the pictures, right? None of this matters if you don't know how to add the pictures to your slideshow. There are different ways to do that, right? You can add individual pictures, or you can add what's called a directory. A directory is literally just a folder of pictures. It's just the folder. You want to add a folder, or do you want to add each picture individually? Usually the folder, right? If I go plus, you can add files, right? I can add individual files out of my pictures folder, or I can go add directory, and I can just add the whole freaking pictures folder, right? Let's say I want a slideshow of my AIM Lab scores. Boom. Literally just pulls that folder. If I hit OK, it's going to start scrolling through all of my AIM Lab scores. It's going to start scrolling through all of my AIM Lab scores this way. Again, I'm going to drag that down below my video capture device so my camera shows up over top of it. But let's say you have a just starting screen. Let's say you have a intermission screen that you have when you're going to the bathroom or something. You can have a slideshow of different pictures with be right back on your screen. That's some of the practical applications of having this. You don't always have to have like a video that's been like highly edited and produced over top of your BRB screen. Sometimes you just put a slideshow up, and that's fine. That's totally okay. That's image slideshow. A lot of these properties are the same as like literally the transition ones that we went over before. You can pick your transition. You can pick how long each picture is shown, how long the transition takes. You can randomize the pictures in the directory, right? And then you can change the size of the pictures if you want them all to be the same, if you want the pictures to be stretched to fit the same size, or if you want them all to retain their sizing. That's what this is going to do. But that's what an image slideshow source does. Next thing we're going to go over is a media source. A media source is how you add a video or audio to your scene, right? You can do this in a couple of different ways. You can add a video, so let's say a starting soon highlight reel, or you can add music to your stream. If you have licensed music that you want to play over, say, your starting soon screen, you can do that. So first thing you're going to do is pick a file that you want to open up and that you want to use. We'll just grab this Valorant trailer we used in the Uncanny announcement, right? So if I want that to loop, I can check this, so it just loops when the video's over. If I want the video to restart every time I open this scene, I can check this. If I want to make sure that my hardware is running this efficiently, you can check this so that if your hardware is over encumbered, it doesn't necessarily chug trying to load media sources. And then you can close the file if this scene is not active right now. If I'm on a different scene, if I'm on my facecam, I can close this file so that it's not running in the background while I'm on my facecam, right? The only thing is when you reopen this scene, it can chug a little bit trying to reopen a video file. So it's really up to you, and it really kind of have to test your system to see which one, whether or not to have this option checked. You can actually speed up or slow down the video and have it run in fast mo or slow mo, right? And then you can also change the color range to partial or full, just like we could on a camera, right? I'm gonna have it auto just pull out of the video file. So if you click OK, I'm gonna pull that down beneath my video capture device, right? So now we have my face cam over top of this Valorant trailer. And that'll run in the background while I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing. I can right-click it, I can go back to properties, I can make it loop if I want it to just keep on playing. If I want to turn it off and not have it show all the time, I can hit the little eyeball and it goes away and it unloads. But that's what a media source does. The other thing you can do with a media source is add music. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, I'm going to add this music file, Tristram, till it's over. It's a song, it's a music file, it's an MP3. So I'm going to open that here. This is going to do something a little interesting, right? It's going to actually add the cover art for the song. But what you can see here is it adds a music slider. This music slider is the song playing from this media. So what you can do, because, oh, I don't want this big Monster Cat album cover over top of all of my stuff. I just want the audio to play. I'm just going to drag it out there and be gone, right? Because if you turn it off, the audio's gone. Turn it on, here's the audio, right? You just don't want the big this over top of your screen. The other thing you can do, because here's the thing too, when you add in media like this, by default, you will not hear it in your ears. Your audience will hear it, but you cannot hear it, right? It will not play back through your speakers, right? It will not play back through your headphones. I can't hear this song right now. If I was streaming, my audience could, but I can't hear it. It was the same for the Valorant trailer. I couldn't hear that either, right? And honestly, sometimes that's better. It lets you like kind of keep your focus and you can hear your own thoughts. But if you want to hear it, there are settings you can change to hear it. But honestly, I never turn them on. I think it's better to keep it quiet so you can kind of hear your own thoughts and figure out what you're going to say next and plan. And then I just adjust the volume based on my other sliders, right? If you want vertical sliders, you can right click.
How do we get the sound? Like, what is the setting for that? I've honestly been looking and couldn't figure it out.
Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna have to actually find it. First things first, I gotta actually turn on my, you can see here I went into settings. If I go to audio, I can set up my audio devices. So we're gonna go
because like in the beginning of my starting screen, I have a moment. I'd like to be able to know when like the hype moment of the song or the end of the song is so that I could come into the intro a little better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh no, for sure. For sure. Give me 1 sec. There is a way to do it.
Because I do use a couple of my friends' songs, so I like to be able to hear them as well.
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've done it.
Figure it out though. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out myself.
1 second. I think it's actually advanced audio properties, audio monitoring. Yep, there it is. Advanced audio properties, audio monitoring, and then you turn it on for what audio output you want it to be set to. And now I can hear it. So if you do want to listen to it, if you do want to have your
Thank you.
Listen to your music, no problem. You do want to listen to your music, if you want to listen to your intro reel, whatever it is, you can turn on the audio monitoring for that device in your advanced audio settings. So again, I like to hear myself think, but so I don't usually have that on, but if you want to be able to come in at a hype moment in the music, if you want to be able to listen to your friend's music while you're playing, that is a way to do it. So there you go. The other way you can do that is you can turn monitoring off if you have a... actually, never mind. Then I'll get into that next week. That's a little bit more of the advanced side of stuff. But you can see here, like, my audio is hitting right here. The music audio is right here. So usually I'll just kind of, like, move it so that the audience can still hear the music, but... like my voice is well and above louder than it. It's more of an accent than it is actual pieces of the content itself. But that's how you use a media source, right? And that's how you listen to it. That's how you set it up. All right. Next up is a text source. I'm going to go over text sources. Browser sources I'm going to go over next week. So that's something that... I'm going to be going over in a little bit more of the advanced section of this OBS.
But that's extremely important for just even basic usage of Uncanny.
I know. This is less of this is a 101. This is literally like just bare bones basics, what everybody needs to know from like basic and basic use. So the browser source I'm going to get into next week because that's also when I'm going to be touching on more advanced things like scripts, where I'm going to be touching on plugins, when I'm going to be digging into the advanced settings. This is the basics week.
Next week sounds juicy.
Yes. That's why the whole goal of this Streamer 101 session is to basically take people that are interested in streaming, have never touched streaming software before, have no idea what they're doing, and then take them to the point where they can run their stream and they don't need anybody to come in and tell them what to do. Right. So this week I literally like I'll put it to you. I know you came in a little bit late, Infamous. I started with here's how you install it. That's where we started today. So we'll get to it. It's just
well, good thing I missed that part.
All right. So next thing we're going to go over is the text source. Text is pretty simple. You can select a font. You can basically do all the stuff you would do if you were setting up, say, a Word document. You can set all of that up here. Right? So you can set underlines, strikeouts, pick your font, pick your size. And you can type in what you want it to say. Let's say you just want Noctwolf TV. And from here, if you scroll down a little bit, you can change the color of the text. Right, and if I want, let's say I want an outline on my text as well, I can check outline. I can pick the size of my outline. Oops. And then I can pick the color of my outline. Say I want it to be like, I don't know, gray. You know, and you can add things like this to your scene. Let's see. And then the really cool thing that you can do with text sources is that you can get them to read from files. If you use a program like Streamlabels, right? If you use a program to say, track who your most recent follower is, or track, you know, who donated to you recently, right? What you can do is and all of what these programs do is essentially generate a text file on your computer that updates every time somebody follows, every time somebody subs, every time somebody donates, right? That's all this program does. It just updates those text files, right? If I want this text to read from file, I can check read from file. I can click browse, and then I can go into my files and find where that my third-party program like basically generates those text files, and I can select it to import into OBS from there. Oh, let's see. Color source is literally just a color. What you can do with this, this gets a little bit more into like doing filters, but it's literally just a color block. And then in the filters for it, which we'll go over filters next week, you can change it into different shapes and change the opacity of it and make it into different things. Like if you want like different shapes of different colors to like accent something over top of your face cam, that's usually what that's used for. It's not really a very commonly used source. Audio output and audio input capture is essentially just adding devices to your audio mixer, but making it scene specific. So, for example, if I have two mics, if I have a screen with me and a buddy, he's got a face cam on here too, and he's like in another room and has his own mic, right? When both of our face cams are on, I want both of our mics on. But if I change scenes, I don't want that mic to be active, right? I just want people to be hearing me. I don't want his mic to be off. That's what these are for, so that you can have scene-specific audio devices and you don't have them mapped to like every single scene. They're not global devices, they're scene-specific. And that's what those are used for. Properties are pretty simple. It's literally just picking which device you want it to listen to. We will go, we'll go over basic browser source stuff today. I don't want to dig into alerts because we only have like 15 minutes left and I still have to go over settings. So I don't want to dig into the actual, like, a whole lot of practical application of it yet, but I can go over at least what it is. A browser source is going to be your most used source after your game and your camera. After your game, after your camera, this is going to be the thing. This is going to be your bread and butter, right? This is going to be something that you use a lot. If you use Streamlabs OBS, you almost never need to use this because everything runs local on your computer and you can just add in your widgets directly. However, that is, again, more intensive on your computer, and it doesn't scale well the more things you add. The other thing is that if you ever wanted to, say, add a tournament bracket to a stream, if you ever wanted to add a wheel spin, a second wheel spin to your stream, on top of the one that Streamlabs already provides, this is where you would need to use a browser source. The browser source is used to essentially take a web page and then plant it onto your stream. So we're going to click OK. And you can see here it's pulling the default browser source. It's pulling the obsproject.com browser source link, right? You can change the height. You can change the width. You can use a custom frame rate if you want it to, say, run at 30 FPS instead of 60 to save some usage, right? You can control the audio for a browser source via OBS. So say if you want to change the alert volume for a Streamlabs alert, you can control that in here, and it will add an audio panel here that you can slide up and down. If, say, you use a Streamlabs alert, you have follow pops up, and you want that audio to be isolated and separated in volume from the rest of your audio sliders, you can check this. It will add a slider here for you. When the sources aren't visible, you can shut them down, and you can also make sure that it refreshes every time it becomes active. Let's say you do a charity stream, right? This will be good. I'm actually doing this here soon, right? This is a charity stream that, this is a charity that I'm supporting with a tournament coming up in Apex, right? On April 2nd, we're holding a charity tournament. Something that
Hey,
I'm
look,
going to
that's
probably...
me.
What?
My name is the last person on the list that donated.
Oh, nice! Alright, thank you, man, I appreciate that. But what we can do is I'm going to take this URL, right? I'm going to paste that in here. And it's going to pull the GoFundMe page, right? You can see a lot of the white space is actually automatically chromed out, which is very, very helpful. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this a 1280 by 720 depth so that the entire thing is seen. So now you can actually see the donation progress. But what I'm going to do, and this is a fun fact, you can use Windows hotkeys to crop, stretch OBS sources. So check this out. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Alt key, drag it over, and it's going to crop this down. So now my dono goal is right. Now that charity goal is right there. I don't have to use a Streamlabs donation goal. I don't have to use any kind of specialized widget. Literally pulling it right from the website. And then what I would do is every time I have this scene open, I would have refresh browser when scene becomes active. So every time I open the progress screen, let's say we have a progress screen for checking on donations. Every time I open that scene, it'll refresh this page and check for new donations. I can also manually do it from here. So if somebody says they donated in chat and the web page didn't update on OBS, I can right click it, I can refresh the cache, and it'll reload it.
Your audio caught during some of that. Did you hit your push to mute button by accident?
I did, because my push to mute button is left alt. You can hold the Alt key and move these to crop. See? So I'm not stretching right now. I'm just actually
And I think you can hold
more
Control to be able to release the boundaries on it, right?
Yes, and then Shift to stretch. See? If you want to snap it back to normal, you can hold Control. And that'll snap any stretching you've done back to what it was normally. So let's say I make this thing like really long with my Shift. If I hold Control and click it, it's going to snap all the boundaries out to make it match the size without actually keeping it stretched. that's some of the practical applications for a browser source, right? There, you can get tournament brackets. You can use it for your alerts. We're going to be going over alerts not next week, but the week after that to actually go over different alert platforms, customizing alerts, customizing widgets, and getting more in depth with your branding on your stream. But that's kind of how at least the browser source works. We're in the Uncanny Discord. When you are using Uncanny to get your kill clips, when you're using Uncanny to get your smart alerts, a browser source is what you will copy and paste all of your... You're going to copy and paste your URLs into that, right?
I've got a couple of those on mine because of you.
Mm-hmm. So that's the browser source. The last scene I think that we need to touch on today is the last thing I think we actually need to touch on is the scene source. I'm going to show you guys how this works in a little bit more of an advanced setting. At least this is how I use this, right? So when I am streaming, I don't want to have to reset my webcam every time I change scenes. Every time I make a scene, right? Every time I have a scene that needs my webcam in it, that needs my cam border, that needs my dono goal, that needs my little logo, that needs all of my alerts stacked, that needs everything that's basically in this camera folder. What I can do is have a separate scene. I call it Cambox Global, right? My Cambox and my camera and all of that stuff lives in this scene. And then all I have to do is when I make a new scene, let's say I made a new gameplay scene where I need both my webcam and my Cambox and all my stuff, but also another person's, all I have to do is add in a scene, and it will add that entire scene in as a source. So I'm going to go back to our examples here, right? If I go, this is our face cam scene right here, right? It's just my face cam, just big old camera. Just for, you know, the purposes of showing the difference. Here, I'm going to add my cat's head, you know, right here. Having a conversation with my cat. And then, let's say here's my gameplay screen. What my scene can do here, we're going to add existing, we're going to add our face cam scene. And now you can see that scene with my cat, me talking to my cat, right here, was just added on top. So like I said, the practical application of this is taking, say, a complex series of media captures, image captures, and webcams, and putting them all in one scene that you don't have to rebuild every time you make a new one, right? You can just build it once, and then add it in to as many scenes as you want, and that way you don't have to redo your work over and over and over again. All right, so now that we've gone over that...
How do you do transitions? Like, how do I edit the transition screen?
I went over that earlier. So, the transitions...
Yeah, it got cut out on Discord. It crashed, so I had to reload.
Gotcha. So, transitions are, again, over here under controls. I'll retouch on that at the end after I'm done with the recording, so it's not doubling up for people that watch later. So, give me a little bit, and then we'll get to the Q&A. All right, so the last thing I'm going to go over is settings. Okay, last thing I'm going to go over is some basic settings. When you're looking in here at your general page for settings, a lot of this stuff, you're not going to really end up needing to touch. You know, you can change your theming, you can change the color of your OBS, you can change your snap sensitivity when you're moving things around on your scene. How closely do you want it to get to the edge before it snaps to it? You can also turn that off entirely. If you don't want it at all, you can also change this is in pixels. So how many pixels do you want it to be in closeness, proximity to something else before it snaps? So a lot of this stuff, again, you're not going to end up messing with. A lot of this stuff we're going to touch on next week. Between the projectors, the system tray, the studio mode, the multi-view, that's all stuff we're going to hit on next week. Those are all settings for those different features in OBS. This is where you connect your stream to OBS. You can literally just click this button, it'll say connect account, and then you can link your Twitch, log in with your Twitch through Twitch's website, and it'll link your Twitch to OBS, and it'll broadcast to it without the need of looking up your stream key. Some websites, though, will require a stream key. So you need to go to your preferred platform, find in your profile settings, basically a big long series of letters and numbers and symbols that it's going to spit out at you, and it's going to tell you, this is your stream key. Don't share this with anyone. You're going to copy that, and you're going to put it into a bar that would normally be right here. But my Twitch link is linked. My Twitch account is linked. You can also set up BTTV and Franker's add-ons so that when you have, say, Twitch chat integration, it'll pick up on the use of these outside third-party emotes. I don't recommend ignoring streaming service recommendations. Some people I know especially on TikTok, are really big fans of clicking this button and then running their streams at not the recommended settings, like way higher because their PC can handle it. The problem with doing that is that it creates a bottleneck of data into Twitch, because Twitch will limit you back down to their setting recommendations no matter what you do on your end. It doesn't matter if you click that button. You can send that out to Twitch, but that doesn't mean that's what Twitch accepts onto their website. You should be streaming at max at 6K bitrate for affiliate and under. Partners can stream up to 8K bitrate. And then your audio bitrate actually just got doubled. They built a new feature into Twitch that lets Twitch handle multiple audio tracks, essentially. So you can have multiple tracks that Twitch is recording for your stream. If you run multiple audio tracks, you can run up to 2 tracks at 160 kilobytes per second bitrate, or 1 track at 320 HD audio, right? So if you're only running 1 track for audio, which most people do, you want to make sure that your audio bitrate is set to 320. The purposes behind having multiple audio tracks, I can get into next week when we talk about advanced settings. But basically what you're going to want to do is to have the highest quality stream that you can get. You're going to want to either stream at 1280 by 720 and rescale your output to 1280 by 720 at a 6K bitrate, or hang on one second, I gotta look up what this true resolution is because it's really weird. Chart. That's not what I'm looking for. Here we go. Alright, so you can tell something is a true resolution when it is divisible by 8. It's going to be the easiest for your computer to process. So you want to either run at 1280 by 720 resolution, or you want to run at 1664 by 936. Your computer, if it's, a little bit beefier and can handle pumping this out, I would run at 1664 by 936. If you sometimes run into internet issues, especially if you run into internet issues, because this is basically, it's going to require a more stable bandwidth connection to get 1664 by 936. If you have internet issues at any kind of frequency, I would stream at 1280 by 720. You should not stream at 1080p on Twitch if you are anything less than partner, because to get even over 30 FPS at any kind of stability with a fast-paced, motion-based game, you need 8,000 bitrate to keep it stable. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of artifacting, you're going to get a lot of weird glitchiness on your screen, and if nobody's brought it up to you, maybe they didn't notice, but trust me, as soon as I get into a stream and they're streaming at 1080, and I check their resolution and I can tell they're playing Warzone, and all of a sudden, every time they look left or right really quick, their screen gets really pixelated. It's because they're streaming at 1080 with not enough data going into Twitch. So you should stream at 60 FPS at 1280 by 720. In your video tab, I would just keep both of these set up at whatever your native resolution is for your monitor. I have 1080p monitors. Both of these for me are set up at 1080p. I have my FPS set up to 60. I have my downscale filter set to 36 samples. It's the highest. It's going to give you the highest quality of downscaling. You're going to lose the least amount of quality downscaling from 1080 to 720 using this one. So I keep both of these at 1080, and then in my output tab, I check rescale output and change this to 720p. All right. And at this point, it has been 1 hour. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. If anybody came in late, if anybody has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and be open to answering those now. I'm going to go ahead and close the recording. If anybody is watching this later on, feel free to stop by in the Uncanny GG Discord. We do these Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. Next week is going to be advanced OBS settings, advanced OBS use cases, and advanced UBS. It's going to be essentially an intermediate to advanced course on the open broadcasting platform. So thank you. Appreciate you guys watching. For those that come later, appreciate everybody that stopped by here. And yeah, close out the video.